I don't know where to even start. Maybe this is just something I need to get off my chest. I've been carrying it around for a while, and it feels like I'm drowning in the weight of it. I guess I'll start with what I thought I knew: my marriage. Lisa and I had been together for over 5 years. I thought we were solid. I thought we had something real, something that would last. And I guess that's how most people feel about their relationships, right? You never think something like this could happen to you. It's funny how you don't see things changing, even when they're right in front of you. I used to think of us as this perfect couple, and the kind of relationship everyone else is a little envious of. We didn't have any crazy drama, no long periods of silence or bitterness. We worked, and we laughed. We had our own routine. I worked long hours in tech, managing a small startup. She was doing freelance work, and mostly design and content creation. We had our issues, sure, but what relationship doesn't? And we worked through them always. Or so I thought. Looking back now, I realize I was too comfortable, too complacent. I didn't notice the small signs that something was off. At first, and it was just little things. Nothing major, nothing that screamed, something's wrong, but enough to make me wonder. She started coming home later, and not answering her phone as quickly as usual, acting a little more distant. I tried to shake it off. Work was busy for both of us, and we were just going through the motions, right? That's what I told myself. We'd been together for years, and we were fine. But that nagging feeling kept creeping up. I guess I just didn't want to face the reality, and I didn't want to admit to myself that maybe something was happening. Maybe I wasn't the only one she was focused on anymore. It wasn't like she was hiding things blatantly. She didn't disappear for days or start showing up with someone else. No, it was subtler. She started acting like everything was normal, while at the same time, I started feeling like a stranger in my own life. It all came to a head one night, and I was sitting in our living room watching TV by myself. Lisa had gone out with some friends for a girls' night, something she'd been doing more often lately. I didn't mind it at first, and I knew she needed her space, her time with friends. But this time, something felt different. I don't know why. I think I just had a gut feeling that tonight wasn't like the others. So I sat there for a while, half watching the TV, half thinking about what was going on between us. The silence in the house felt off. I started to overthink everything. How she'd been acting distant, how she'd gotten really secretive with her phone, and how I'd caught her avoiding eye contact a few times. It wasn't much, but it was enough for me to start wondering. What if she was seeing someone else? And what if I was too blind to see it? I know it sounds dramatic, but I just couldn't shake the thought. I kept trying to tell myself I was being paranoid, that everything was fine, but I couldn't stop myself. I had to know. I didn't even know what I was looking for, but I felt like I needed to search. I'm not proud of it, but that's when I decided to look through her stuff. I know it's not the most honorable thing to do. It's not something I ever thought I'd do. But I was desperate to know the truth. I just needed to find something, anything, and to either confirm or shut down these thoughts. I went into her closet and started rummaging through her purse. I didn't know what I was expecting to find, but I had to check. I opened her bag and started pulling things out. There was the usual stuff: her wallet, and some makeup, receipts from places she'd been, nothing out of the ordinary. But then I saw it. A small bottle tucked in the corner of her bag. At first, I didn't think anything of it. I almost put it back, but something stopped me. I took it out and read the label: an emergency contraceptive pills. The world seemed to stop for a second. My hands froze. I didn't even know what to think at first. I just stared at the bottle, trying to process what I was looking at. It felt like my heart had dropped into my stomach. I could barely breathe. This wasn't some over-the-counter painkiller or an allergy medication. No, this was something else. Something serious. and I stood there in the middle of the room, holding the pills in my hand, trying to make sense of it. What the hell was going on? Why would she have this? Was she having an affair? Was she planning to have an abortion? My mind was spinning, racing to make connections that didn't make sense yet. But deep down, I knew one thing for sure. This wasn't just a mistake. I put the pills back in her bag, and I tried to calm myself down. But it wasn't working. My mind was filled with questions, and I couldn't stop thinking about what I'd just found. How long had she been keeping this from me? Was I really that blind? Was she seeing someone else? And if so, how long had it been going on? I couldn't stay there anymore. I grabbed my jacket and left the house. I needed air, I needed space to think. I didn't know what to do. And how could I confront her about this? How could I even ask her about it, without sounding like I was accusing her of something I wasn't sure of? I felt like I was losing my mind. When I came back later that night, she was already home. She was acting normal, like nothing had changed. Like nothing was different. She smiled at me when I walked in the door, like she always did. But I couldn't look at her the same way anymore. I couldn't ignore what I'd just found. The pills were burning in the back of my mind, and I felt like I was suffocating. I didn't confront her that night. I couldn't. I didn't even know what to say. I just sat there, trying to act like everything was fine, and when in reality, nothing was fine anymore. The truth had broken everything wide open, and I didn't even know how to begin putting it back together. I guess the worst part was knowing that she knew something had changed. She had to have known. But we both just pretended that nothing was wrong. We sat there in silence, each of us caught in our own thoughts. For me, it was a realization that I didn't know my wife as well as I thought I did. And for her, well, I don't know what was going on in her head, but I would find out soon enough. The truth always comes out, doesn't it? I wish I could tell you I confronted her right away, that I had the strength to face the truth head on, but I didn't. I didn't say a word to Lisa that night. I just let the silence stretch between us like an insurmountable wall. The pills were still on my mind, and burning like a brand in the back of my skull. I couldn't look at her without seeing them, without imagining what they meant. And every time she smiled or made small talk about her day, I couldn't shake the image of that bottle, tucked away in her purse like a dirty secret. The next day I woke up early. I had to get out of the house. I couldn't sit there and pretend everything was normal. I went to work, but my mind wasn't on the projects in front of me. I was barely even aware of what I was doing. The pills kept haunting me, like a shadow I couldn't escape. Every time I thought I could push it to the back of my mind, it would pop right back up, and more urgent and loud than before. I'd catch myself zoning out, thinking of Lisa, thinking of those pills, trying to piece together the story that I couldn't see clearly yet. I told myself I was being paranoid, that I was jumping to conclusions. And maybe there was a perfectly logical explanation for all of this. But then I started thinking about all the little things. The late nights she'd come home, the distant look in her eyes when I asked about her day, and the way she'd start texting when I was around, always quick to hide the screen. I tried to write it all off. Work stress, friend drama, whatever. But the more I thought about it, the more I began to feel like I was fooling myself. Lisa had always been the kind of person who had a lot of friends. I never had a problem with that. She would go out with her girls, and I would hang out with my buddies. It was normal. But recently, her girls' nights had been more frequent, and she always seemed to be out doing something. I asked her about it a couple of times, but she always gave me the same answer. Just work stuff, you know how it is. But there was something off about the way she said it. She didn't seem genuine. The days passed, and the tension between us grew. I tried to pretend everything was fine when she was around. I didn't want to accuse her of something I wasn't sure of, and I didn't want to make her feel like I didn't trust her. But, at the same time, I couldn't stop myself from feeling like she was hiding something. And I hated myself for it. I hated that I had this doubt in my head, that I couldn't just trust her the way I used to. I started looking for answers in subtle ways, and I'd casually glance at her phone when she left it on the kitchen counter, or scroll through her Instagram to see who she'd been talking to. I hated myself for doing it. I knew I was invading her privacy, but I couldn't stop. I needed to know if she was seeing someone else, if there was another man. I didn't find anything incriminating on her phone, but that didn't ease my mind. If anything, it made me more paranoid. Why didn't I find anything? Was she deleting things covering her tracks? Or was I just imagining all of this? One evening, a week after I'd found the pills, Lisa came home from another one of her girls' nights. I was sitting on the couch and watching TV but not really paying attention to it. When she walked in, I couldn't help but notice how she looked. Like she hadn't been home in days, like she was someone else entirely. She smiled at me, but it was a forced smile, like she was trying too hard to act normal. She kissed me on the cheek, and for a moment, I thought maybe this was just a bad phase we were going through, that everything would go back to normal. Maybe I was wrong about all of this, and maybe I was overthinking things. But then she went into the bedroom to change, and I heard her phone buzz on the counter. I hesitated for a moment. Should I look at it? Should I keep feeding this paranoia, or should I just trust her? But I was already too far gone. I grabbed her phone and unlocked it. I don't know what I was expecting. A text message from some guy. A missed call from an unknown number. I didn't find anything like that. And what I found instead was a series of texts between Lisa and one of her close friends. The messages weren't scandalous, not in the way I expected, but they were still unsettling. There were mentions of, "He's getting suspicious. I don't know how long I can keep this up. And, maybe we should take a break for a while." My stomach dropped, and I knew deep down what this meant. I wasn't wrong. I wasn't just imagining things. Something was going on. I don't know how long I stared at the screen. My hands were shaking, and I felt like the floor was slipping out from under me. I wanted to scream, to throw the phone across the room, but I couldn't. I just sat there, reading the messages over and over again, trying to make sense of them. Who was she talking about? What was she referring to? Lisa came out of the bedroom and caught me holding her phone. She froze when she saw what I was looking at, and for a moment, neither of us said anything. I was waiting for her to explain herself, for her to deny it, to tell me I was just being paranoid. But she didn't. She didn't say anything at all. Finally, she spoke, her voice barely above a whisper. "You shouldn't have looked." I felt like I'd been slapped. The anger hit me like a wave, but so did the sadness. I wanted to yell, and to demand answers, but all I could do was sit there in stunned silence, processing what I'd just read. "Who is he?" I asked, my voice tight. Lisa hesitated, her eyes darting away from mine. "It's not what you think." It felt like the ground beneath me shifted. I didn't know what to believe anymore. Part of me wanted to run away, to just leave and forget all of this ever happened. But the other part of me, the part that loved her, that believed in us, needed answers. And deep down, I knew I wasn't going to get the truth unless I pushed her. "Lisa, please," I said, the words choking me. "Who is he? What's going on?" She swallowed hard and sat down next to me. She looked at me, her eyes filled with tears, and then she finally spoke. "I've been seeing someone else," she whispered. "I didn't want to hurt you, but I don't know how to fix this." And that was it. The moment I'd been dreading, the moment when everything came crashing down. The truth was out, and there was no turning back. I can't even describe the feeling I had in that moment. It was like someone had just punched me in the chest, knocked the wind out of me. and my mind was racing, but it was all so surreal. I had heard the words, but they didn't fully make sense. She's been seeing someone else. I kept repeating that phrase in my head, trying to make it fit into the life I thought I knew. But it didn't. It didn't make sense. Lisa, my wife, was having an affair. The room felt colder somehow. The air between us thickened. I could see her face, and the guilt written all over it, the tears welling up in her eyes. But I couldn't feel bad for her. Not yet. I couldn't even feel the anger I thought would come. It was like I was numb, completely detached from everything. My voice came out hoarse, and like I was struggling to speak through a cloud. How long? I managed to ask. Her eyes flinched, and she looked down at her hands. A few months. A few months, that's how long she had been lying to me. A few months, and I had no idea. I couldn't process it. I had been living my life, going through the motions, thinking everything was fine. All the while, she had been carrying on with someone else, and making decisions without me, betraying me in ways I couldn't even begin to understand. I wasn't sure how to react. Part of me wanted to scream, and to shout, to demand all the details, who he was, where it started, how it happened. I wanted answers, and I wanted them right then. But at the same time, I just felt lost. My wife, the person I trusted more than anyone, the woman I had built my life with, was a stranger to me now. Who is he? I asked again, though the question felt small and insignificant now, like it didn't matter anymore. But I had to know. Lisa didn't answer right away. She looked like she was struggling with her words. His name is Jack, she finally said. He's a guy I met through work. We started talking, and it just happened. I didn't mean for it to go this far, but it did. It was like listening to a stranger talk. I couldn't connect the woman I knew with the one sitting across from me now. A few months. And she had been lying to me for months. That's how long this had been going on, and I had no idea. It was hard to wrap my head around it, and all the little signs. The phone being hidden, the late nights, the lies about her girls' nights. It all made sense now. She had been so careful, so deliberate, and I had been blind. I stood up suddenly, the anger starting to claw its way up my throat. I felt my pulse pounding in my ears, the heat in my chest rising. Why didn't you just tell me? I asked, my voice shaking. Why the hell didn't you just tell me you were unhappy? And why go behind my back? Lisa didn't meet my eyes. She was crying now, and it made everything worse. I didn't want to hurt you, she said in a soft voice, barely above a whisper. I never meant for it to get this far. And I didn't know how to stop it. I was scared. I repeated. Scared of what? Scared of me. Scared of how I'd react. My mind was swirling with frustration. I trusted you. I believed in you. And you lied to me every single day. You kept this secret from me, and now I find out you've been screwing some guy behind my back. Her face twisted in pain. I didn't want to destroy what we had, she said. I thought if I just kept going with the affair, maybe I wouldn't have to face it, and maybe I could just keep the lie going, and it wouldn't hurt you. The audacity. I couldn't wrap my head around it. She didn't even seem sorry for betraying me. She was sorry she got caught, sure, but her remorse didn't feel real. It felt like a weak excuse for everything she'd done. I couldn't stand it anymore. I had to get out of that room. I needed air. I needed to process what she had just said. I stormed out of the house, not even bothering to grab my jacket. My mind was racing, but at the same time, I felt completely paralyzed. I could hear her calling after me, but I didn't stop. I couldn't stop. I needed to get away from her, from everything, and I ended up walking aimlessly for what felt like hours. I didn't know where I was going. My legs were moving, but my mind was a blur. How had this happened? I had no answers. I couldn't think straight. By the time I finally returned home, it was late, and I was exhausted. I didn't want to go back inside. I didn't want to face her, but I knew I had to. I knew I couldn't avoid it forever. Lisa was still there, sitting on the couch, her face red and blotchy from crying. She looked at me when I walked in, but she didn't say anything. The silence between us was suffocating. "I don't even know who you are anymore," I said quietly, the words coming out heavier than I expected. "I don't even recognize you." I don't think she knew what to say to that. She had never seemed more distant, more foreign. The woman I had known, the woman I thought I loved, was gone. She had been replaced by someone I didn't even understand. "I never wanted this," she said softly, and as if that could explain it. "I never wanted to hurt you." "Then why did you?" I asked, my voice shaking with emotion. "Why didn't you just leave me if you were unhappy? Why drag me through this? Why lie to me for months?" Her shoulders slumped, and she wiped her eyes with the back of her hand. "I don't know. I was stupid. I was selfish. I wanted to believe her. I really did. But at that moment I couldn't. The damage was done. The trust was shattered beyond repair. "I can't do this," I said, and the words coming out almost as a whisper. "I can't keep living in this lie. I can't pretend everything's okay." She looked at me like she was pleading, but I was already too far gone. I had already made up my mind. This wasn't the woman I married, and I couldn't stay in a relationship that was built on a lie. The next few weeks were a blur. We barely spoke. I stayed in the house, but it felt more like a prison than a home. I slept on the couch, unable to even look at our bed. Lisa tried to talk to me and to explain herself, but I couldn't listen to her. The words were hollow. Every time she spoke, it felt like she was just trying to patch up a hole that was too big to fix. One night, she packed her things. She didn't say much when she left. I didn't either. We both knew it was over. The love, the trust, everything we had, it was gone. She walked out the door, and that was the last time I saw her. But that wasn't the end of the story. No, not by a long shot. The real battle, the hardest part, and was what came after. It wasn't the anger, it wasn't the betrayal, it was the emptiness. The fact that I was now living a life I never imagined for myself. The man who thought he had everything together, a wife, a home, and a future, was left with nothing but questions and regret. The first few days after Lisa left were a blur. It felt like I was walking through life underwater, everything muffled and distant. I didn't know what to do with myself. My apartment felt empty, like a shell of what it used to be. I had always imagined that if things ever fell apart, I'd have some kind of plan in place. Some script to follow, some way to fix it. But I was lost. I didn't know how to fix myself, let alone fix anything that had been broken between us. The silence was the hardest part. I remember sitting on the couch, staring at the blank TV screen, hearing nothing but my own thoughts. I had to go through the motions, go to work, answer messages, meet with clients. But I couldn't focus. And everything felt like it was happening to someone else, like I was watching my life from the outside. I didn't talk to anyone about what had happened. At least not right away. I didn't know how to explain it to my friends or family. Yeah, my wife cheated on me. It sounded so simple when I said it in my head, but saying it out loud made it feel real, made it feel like something I couldn't fix. I wasn't ready to be that guy. I wasn't ready to have everyone feel sorry for me, or worse, and treat me like I had somehow failed. The first week alone was the hardest. I spent most of my evenings in the same position, just lying on the couch, staring at the ceiling. My thoughts would cycle in and out, constantly going back to Lisa. The what-ifs were unbearable. What if I had seen the signs earlier? What if I had confronted her sooner? Could I have saved us? Could I have done something to make it right? And I went through all the stages. Anger, frustration, guilt. There was this part of me deep down, and that felt like I had done something wrong, that somehow I was to blame for this. If I had been a better husband, more attentive, and maybe this wouldn't have happened. But then I remembered the truth. She had made the choice. She had lied to me. She had betrayed me. And no matter how much I wanted to take responsibility for it, I couldn't. This wasn't my fault. I couldn't stop thinking about Jack, the guy she was with. I didn't even know what he looked like, but I imagined him every day. Was he better than me? Was he everything I wasn't? Did she love him? Did she love me at all? The questions ate at me like a cancer, consuming everything in my mind. I knew I should let it go, and he wasn't part of my life anymore, and Lisa was gone. But there was a part of me that wanted to know every detail. I wanted to know what I had been missing, what he had that I didn't. I wanted answers that I knew would only make me feel worse. It wasn't just the affair that had shattered me. It was everything that came with it. The trust, the love, the future we had planned. I had spent years building my life around her, around us. We had talked about kids, about growing old together, about all these dreams. And now they were gone. The life I had spent so much time building was a lie, and I didn't know how to rebuild from that. One night, about 2 weeks after Lisa left, I went out to a bar with a friend of mine, Matt. He knew something was up, but I hadn't told him everything. I just said, "I'm going through something, man." And he didn't push. Matt was the kind of guy who knew when to back off, but tonight, he wasn't going to let me wallow in silence. "So, how are you really doing?" he asked after a few beers. "You haven't been yourself lately." I looked down at my drink, unable to meet his eyes. The weight of everything hit me in that moment. It had been weeks of holding it all in, and I was so tired. Tired of pretending, tired of lying to myself, tired of not dealing with it. "I don't know, man," I said, shaking my head. "I don't know how I'm supposed to be doing. I'm just lost. Lisa's gone, and I don't even know who I am without her." I paused for a second, then added, "I thought I had everything figured out, and now, I don't know what the hell happened." And Matt was quiet for a minute, and I could tell he was trying to find the right words. Finally, he said, "Look, dude, this sucks. There's no way around that. You've been blindsided. But you can't keep holding on to the what-ifs. You've got to let go of that shit." I knew he was right. But how? How do you just let go of everything you thought was real? I don't think I answered him that night. But the next day I started trying. Not all at once, but little by little. I had to face the truth, and that meant letting go. It meant accepting that the life I thought I had wasn't mine anymore. Lisa wasn't coming back, and the trust we had was gone. And no matter how much I wanted to fix it, I couldn't. I started going to therapy, something I'd never considered before. I didn't think I needed it at first. I thought I could handle it on my own. But the truth was, I couldn't. I couldn't process everything on my own, so I went. And for the first time in weeks, I felt like I was starting to move forward. I had to let go of the anger. I had to stop looking at the past and start looking at the future. It wasn't easy. There were days when I still wanted to pick up the phone and call her. There were days when I still wanted to ask her why, to get answers that would never come. But I knew I had to stop holding on to the pain. I had to stop letting it control me. And the first time I felt like I could breathe again was about 2 months after Lisa left. It wasn't a big moment, just a quiet day when I woke up and didn't feel completely crushed. It wasn't that everything was perfect, or that I had moved on completely, but for the first time, I wasn't drowning in it. I wasn't consumed by it. I started going out more, hanging out with friends, getting involved in things that had nothing to do with her, with us. Slowly, life began to feel like mine again, and I started remembering who I was before her, before the marriage, before the lies. And then, one night, I ran into Lisa at the grocery store. She looked different. Her hair was a little longer, her clothes a little more polished, and like she was trying to put the pieces of her life back together too. We stared at each other for a second, and for the first time in months, I didn't feel angry. I didn't feel the need to scream at her, to ask her questions I knew she couldn't answer. I just felt empty. She started to speak, but I didn't want to hear it. I didn't need closure from her anymore. I was done with that chapter of my life. I hope you're okay, I said, my voice flat. I hope you find whatever it is you're looking for. She nodded, her eyes filled with tears, but she didn't say anything. She just turned and walked away, and that was it. It wasn't some grand moment of reconciliation. It wasn't a dramatic confrontation. It was just two people who had once been everything to each other, passing in a store, finally acknowledging that everything had changed. I don't know where Lisa is now. I don't know if she's happy, or if she's still with Jack, or if she's still trying to figure out who she is. And frankly, I don't care. What matters now is that I'm moving on. I'm rebuilding. I'm learning to trust again, but more importantly, I'm learning to trust myself again. It's been a long road, and I still have days where I feel the weight of what happened. But I know one thing: I'm not defined by her mistake. I'm defined by how I choose to move forward.